side. Murphy shooting, save a rebound on the view.
Hey everyone, this is Casey. You are watching the Red Rubber Duckwind All Sports Network. It's time to go into, let's go ahead and recap the Week 8 college football games, as well as go into Week 9. We have a lot of great matchups to go over and, of course, talk about. But let's go ahead and recap Week 8, starting with Louisville taking down number 2 ranked Miami 24-21. Now, I did have Miami to win, but my God, did Louisville prove almost everyone wrong. So this was the first time in 10 games that Miami lost at home. The last team to beat them in Miami, Louisville, back in 2023. And Miller Moss ended up throwing 2 touchdown passes to Chris Bell, as well as running in for 1 score. Meanwhile, Carson Beck got picked off not once, not twice, not thrice, but 4 times. And still, Miami had every chance to win, but those 4 turnovers proved to be too much. And so Louisville ended up escaping Miami with the win. Really, Nebraska, you finally showed that you're worthy of the top 25, and you come in and produce that. 24-6, the final score. Minnesota taking down Nebraska for a 6th straight time. And then Dylan Raiola ended up getting sacked a school record 9 times for Minnesota. And that was proved too much to overcome. Because Raiola only threw for 177 yards. And Anthony Smith and Carter Mentz each had 2.5 sacks for Minnesota. It showed. I had Minnesota winning, and that was why. Because Nebraska tends to let people down at almost every turn. Well, Georgia Tech's offense couldn't have come at a better time. The number 12 Jackets take down Duke 27-18. Of course, I had Georgia Tech winning. They've won their first 7 games for the first time since 1966. Omar Daniels returned a fumble, a school record 95 yards for a touchdown, and they pieced together enough late-game offense to take down the Blue Devils. And don't look now, but with Georgia Tech having 4 unranked opponents in their schedule, and then Georgia coming before their matchup against Georgia, it's going to be a tough team to beat. LSU, we tried to warn you. As a matter of fact, to the rest of the SEC, other than Bama, we tried to warn you about Vanderbilt, that they're back. And guess what? They are back. Vanderbilt, off to their best start since 1950. Since 1950, when they started 6-1, they are now 6-1, 2-1 in the SEC. They take down LSU 31-24. Diego Pavia threw for 160 yards and a score, and he also ran for 86 yards and 2 more scores. And that was what was needed, and Brian Kelly can finally shut up. Oh boy, somebody pissed off Oklahoma. Oh wait, that's true. It was Texas. Because Oklahoma is back on track after beating South Carolina in their own house 26-7. After a long disappointing week from John Mateer, he woke up and threw for 150 yards and a touchdown, while Oklahoma's defense ended up sacking Lenora Sellers 6 times, and they had an interception as well as a safety. And it was as if that loss to Texas never happened. But don't tell those hook 'em horns people. Guys, I think Indiana might be legit. 38-13, they beat Michigan State. You should know full well that I picked Indiana to win. And part of those is Heisman candidate Fernando Mendoza completing all but 4 passes for 332 yards and 4 touchdowns. And the highest ranking in program history just got even higher. If they end up at number 1, people are going to be like, where did this come from? Maybe that extension that Kurt Signetti was worth it. Well, that was a game. Number 5 Ole Miss losing to number 9 Georgia in a battle of the SEC Titans. And Georgia, of course, I picked to win. And there's a reason why. They have enough second half comebacks to make Patrick Mahomes jealous. Georgia came back from trailing 35-26 as Gunnar Stockton threw for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns, including 3 to tight end Lawson Lucky. And they did overcome Ole Miss's Trinidad Chambliss and Ole Miss's powerful offense for a 43-35 win. Wow. Now that is what you call a game. Let's be real for this one. Yeah, the number 1 team in the country. And you had a crumbling Wisconsin squad. Of course, I had to pick Ohio State to win. And Wisconsin didn't do much, if anything, to prove me wrong. 34-0. Julian Sayin revealed himself as a true Heisman contender. And Carnell Tate caught two of Sayin's 4 touchdown passes. And who knows, you might see him win that Heisman Trophy in New York City. We'll see. Aggies, that was a bit too close for comfort, don't you think? But number 4, Texas A&M survives Arkansas 45-42. Marcel Reed threw for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he also ran for 55. The Aggies are 7-0 for the first time since 1994 when they finished 10-0-1. So, guess what? The Aggies are now the only undefeated team left in the SEC. So, we'll see if they're legit or not, but Texas A&M, you still got to win 2 more games to break the curse of 8-4. Can you do it? I think you can. Okay, at this point, I think we made it clear who the group of 5 favorite is for that playoff spot. Because UAB, after firing Trent Dilfer, comes in and upsets number 22 Memphis 31-24. And Alex Mortensen delivered as the interim coach. And they were powered with new starting quarterback Ryder Burton, throwing 20 for 27 with 251 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's crazy what UAB has done. And we'll see if this can turn around UAB's season. It's not too late. Okay, Arizona State, can you decide whether you're a dangerous team or just pure snake oil? Because Arizona State comes out and hands Texas Tech their first loss, 26-22. After seeing a 12-point fourth quarter lead turn into a deficit, Sam Leavitt led Arizona State on a drive that ended with Malik Brown's 1-yard touchdown run, with 34 seconds left to cap off the win. Seriously, can the Sun Devils be serious for one moment? Oh, wait, this is college football. Nothing is ever serious and nothing is ever logical. After losing to Indiana, number 8 Oregon takes down Rutgers 56-10. Dante Moore passed for 290 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then after falling 30-20 to Indiana at home, they now extend the nation's longest road winning streak to 10 games. So it's safe to say that loss to Indiana is a one-off. and the fact that Indiana might actually be legit. Oh, Washington State. So close to upsetting Ole Miss, and now you were oh so close to upsetting Virginia. But the number 18 Cavaliers survived 22-20. Cam Robinson and Hunter Osborne stuffed Kirby Bowies in the end zone for the game-winning safety, and that was all they needed after going down 20-10 in the fourth quarter. And so Virginia is now at 6-1, and they've won 5 straight. And all of a sudden, that race for a spot in Charlotte gets a whole lot wider. Another team that was so close to upsetting a ranked team was Kentucky, as number 21 Texas survived 16-13 in overtime. But Mason Shipley kicks a 45-yard field goal to win it. Shipley also kicked a 39-yard field goal with a minute remaining to give the Longhorns the lead. But then Kentucky would tie it with 13 all, with Jacob Qualls' 45-yard field goal with 9 seconds left. Meanwhile, the Longhorns managed just 179 total yards, but 2 big punt returns from Ryan Niblett was just enough to hold off the Wildcats and the Longhorns to stay in the top 25. Okay. You got to feel bad for Florida Atlantic. They ran into a wall of bulls. 48-13, number 19 South Florida takes out Florida Atlantic. Byron Brown looks legit. 3 touchdown passes and running for a score, racking up 522 yards. Touchdown receptions to Jeremiah Koger, Jonathan Eccles, and Wyatt Sullivan. And the Bulls ended up scoring the final 27 points to turn a 21-13 lead into a blowout. Florida Atlantic. This is why you have to play a full 60 minutes. The 3rd Saturday of October. Either way, Dixieland Delight will be playing out in speakers everywhere. But number 6 Alabama does survive number 11 Tennessee 37-20. And what really turned the tide, no pun intended, was Abian Brown's 99-yard pick 6 as time expired in the first half. And Brown's pick would give them the 23-7 lead, and the Tide would not look back as they held the nation's highest scoring offense to 410 yards, well below 529, which is their average. Well, Notre Dame taking out USC 34-24. Number 13 taking out number 20. I picked Notre Dame to win. And huge reason why was Jeremiah Love. He ran for a career-high 228 yards and 1 score. And then Jadarian Price scoring on a tackle-breaking 100-yard kickoff return in the third quarter. And Notre Dame, despite all the spite, is still in contention for a playoff spot. And number 16 Missouri has turned on the stove for Hugh Freeze's hot seat. I think he now has 3rd or 4th-degree burns. But 23-17 in double overtime, the Tigers beat the Tigers. Missouri takes out Auburn. But Ahmad Hardy ran for 58 yards and 2 scores. And the Tigers bounced back from a home loss to Alabama and beat the other team from that state. And Red 5478 has another good team that's not Ohio State from where he's from. Number 24, Cincinnati taking out Oklahoma State 49-17. Brenton Sorsby throws 3 touchdown passes and he ran for 1 score. That's 6 straight wins for the Bearcats. And by the way, Sorsby with 20 of 29 for 270 yards and 2 touchdown passes to Cyrus Allen. And they paced an offense that had 427 yards total. It's safe to say Cincinnati might make a surprise run in the Big 12 should the dominoes fall the right way. Speaking of the Big 12, we had another holy war, BYU taking down Utah. 24-21, number 15 taking out number 23. I picked BYU to win, and one of those reasons is Bear Buckmeyer throwing for 229 yards. And LJ Martin had 122 yards on the ground. BYU is now 7-0, and they beat their Holy War rivals for a third straight year. And this is their first 3-game winning streak in the Holy War since winning 4 straight from 1989 to 1992. I think it's safe to say that BYU is the new Big 12 favorite. All right, now it's time to go over week 9 of college football. Let's get into some predictions. And again, this is just for the top 25, and they're all going to have their games on Saturday. So the first team we got UCLA traveling to Bloomington to take on number 2 Indiana. And remember when Indiana was celebrating their highest ranking ever? Well, it just got a lot bigger. And if the dominoes fall their way, you might just be looking at the number 1 team in the country. But UCLA has been on a hot streak. They've won 3 straight games after firing their head coach. Nico Amalivia has thrown for nearly 1,400 yards, but Fernando Mendoza has shown that he is a Heisman candidate, throwing for 1,755 yards, 21 touchdowns, and only throwing 2 picks so far this year. And this is going to be a tough one, but because UCLA does have an upset case, but Indiana's atmosphere is starting to get a lot more like the shaking stadium pulse in the EA game. I'm going to say Indiana holds on and goes to 8-0. Next up, we got number 16 Virginia taking on North Carolina, in Chapel Hill. You have one of the top offenses coming out of Charlottesville, 20th overall. They're the 9th highest scoring offense in the country with 40 points a game. And you're going up against probably one of the worst in college football. Because currently North Carolina sits at 131st overall. And I don't think it's going to get much better for Belichick and company. I'm going to say number 16 Virginia steamrolls the Tar Heels and goes to 7-1. Whew. Well, this game's gonna have mixed predictions. Number 8 Ole Miss taking on number 13 Oklahoma. Why this isn't on Saturday Night Football on ABC, I don't know. Because both teams are 6-1. They are prime playoff contenders, and they could make a run to Atlanta if the dominoes fall in their direction. I know I've said that several times in this video. But the 8th best offense in the country is going to be rolling into Norman with Trinidad Chambliss throwing for nearly 1,600 yards, 8 touchdowns, and just 1 pick. And this offense has only allowed 7 sacks this year. But you are going up against the top defense in the country, as well as the 4th best passing and 3rd best rushing defense. So this is going to be a matchup for the ages, I'm sure. There's a reason why Oklahoma's only 5.5-point favorites. This game is probably going to be hella close. But I'm going to say Oklahoma does enough to pull off the upset and make them shoot up. And you might see them in the playoff picture come November 4th. Next up, we got Syracuse taking on number 7 Georgia Tech at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Now, Georgia Tech has won their first 7 games for the first time since 1966, like we mentioned. And Haynes King has not thrown a pick since week 1, and he has proven himself to be a dual threat quarterback. Meanwhile, Syracuse is having a little bit of quarterback issues because Ricky Collins took over for Steve Angeli after he tore his Achilles, and it did not go well. He briefly got benched when he threw for 126 yards, 2 touchdowns, but throwing 3 interceptions. And this is the guy you trust to take down the Jackets. I don't think it's going to happen. There's a reason why Georgia Tech are 16.5-point favorites. I'm going to say the Jackets go to 8-0. Well, if it wasn't for UAB, this would be a potential American Championship preview. We got number 18 South Florida taking on Memphis. Memphis is still uncertain at who's going to be lining up at quarterback. Yeah. Because after losing the UAB, some of their confidence might be gone. As for South Florida, they've been firing on all cylinders. And both of these teams sitting at 6-1. Right now, South Florida is a 6-point favorite. But I'm going to say that South Florida goes in and wins. Next up, we got number 23 Illinois taking on Washington up at Seattle. Now, you saw the game with number 1 Ohio State, and Washington was able to hold Julian Sand to just 24 points. But the problem is Washington couldn't get a touchdown on Ohio State's defense. And this showed me that Washington does have some fight. I mean, both them and Illinois said 5-2. And while Illinois' offense was able to solve Ohio State's defense for a couple of drives, the problem is you're playing up in Washington. And Ohio State could not pull away even if they could try. Because Washington has the 39th best defense and the 32nd best offense. And that's going to be difficult to take down, but I'm going to say that we have a top 25 team going down. I'm going to say Washington beats the Illini and goes to 6-2 and potentially into the top 25. Next up, we got number 4 Alabama taking on South Carolina. Now, South Carolina, they did fail to take out Oklahoma, and sad part is I think they might fail to take down Alabama too. Ty Simpson going off for nearly 2,000 yards this year, 18 touchdowns and just 1 pick. And you're talking about the 11th best passing offense, but the main thing with the Tide is the defense. They have the 10th best passing defense, and their defense is barely in the top 25 overall. And you're going up against one of the worst offenses in the country. This is a breeding ground for a home blowout, and it might happen here. I'm going to say the Crimson Tide take down the Gamecocks. Sorry, Dodger. Okay. Iowa State really needs to get together, and they're going up against number 11 BYU because the Cyclones were once 5-0. They ended up losing to Cincinnati, and a lot happened after losing to Colorado. But now they go up against BYU, who is 7-0 and has kind of taken over them as a favorite for the Big 12 championship. But BYU is 7-0, and they're going to try to block the Cyclones' road of redemption. And I think it might happen in Ames, Iowa. I'm going to say the BYU takes out Iowa State, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that think the same. If you don't think this game is going to be close, you probably haven't watched a game of college football yet this year. Number 15, Missouri, taking on number 10, Vanderbilt. Missouri comes in with the top 10 offense as well as a top 5 defense, but the problem is you're on the road against a team that just took out LSU and exposed them. And Alabama kind of did the same thing to you in your own house. And I'm going to say that Vanderbilt goes in and wins. Vanderbilt may be 3-point favorites, and I think they might win by exactly 3 points. We got ourselves a QB showdown in Cincinnati as the number 21 Bearcats host Baylor. Brennan Sorsby versus Sawyer Robertson. While Brennan Sorsby leads the country at 24 with 24 touchdowns, Sawyer Robertson is not too far behind. He's second with 23. And Sorsby is the Big 12's highest rated quarterback. And it's going to take a great effort to try to bring him down. As the Bearcats were bowl eligible for the first time since 2022. And I have a feeling that this might continue. The winning streak might continue. I'm going to say that Cincinnati wins this one. We have Oklahoma State now taking on number 14 Texas Tech. And you might say that Red Raiders loss to Arizona State has an asterisk. And you could say that with Brendan Morton not playing. But it still doesn't matter because top teams in college football find a way to win regardless of who's at the helm. And right now, you have easy prey as the Cowboys are 1-6. They're still trying to find their Big 12 win. They're still trying to find their first Big 12 win in a campaign that saw Mike Gundy being fired on September 23rd. But right now, it's not looking likely that they're going to get it in Lubbock. I'm going to say the Red Raiders win this one. Next up, we got number 22 Texas taking on Mississippi State. Now, if Texas is going to take out Starkville, then a lot of that is going to be on the defense because they are 13th overall, including the 5th best rushing defense in the country. And if they are going to beat the Bulldogs, then Arch Manning has to play beyond expectations. And I think it might happen. Texas rolls in at 7.5-point favorites. I'm going to say the Longhorns win by less than that, but still they pick up a win. Next up, we got Stanford taking on number 9 Miami. Now, of course, Miami, they did just lose their home winning streak to Louisville. Actually, Carson Beck basically gave it away with 4 interceptions. But they still have one of the top defenses in the country at 15 overall. And you're going up against probably one of the worst offenses and probably one of the worst defenses in the country. So Carson Beck could have a field day on a passing defense that ranks 132nd overall. And I think that might happen. As long as Beck doesn't throw 4 interceptions, then the Hurricanes should be able to get it done. Give me Miami to win. Do we really need to spend some time on this game? We have Wisconsin taking on number 6 Oregon. The 6th best defense. the sixth best offense, number 6 in the country. This Oregon team is literally the devil. But Dante Moore, I think it's going to go off on Wisconsin. May not be on the ground, but it's going to be in the air. I'm going to say that Oregon takes down the Badgers and puts them one step closer to bowl ineligibility. Now we have Boston College taking on a brand new team in the top 25, number 19 Louisville. Now they did just take out the Hurricanes, but they need to avoid a letdown against Boston College, especially since the Eagles are 1-6. Because 2 years ago, Louisville stormed the field after beating Notre Dame, and then they took out the Clemson Tigers in Death Valley, but then they followed it up with a loss against Pitt. This cannot happen here in 2025. And I have a feeling that it will not, because Chris Bell, I think, is going to continue his stellar play as of late. Because over the past 3 games, he has caught 31 passes for 441 yards and 5 touchdowns. And I think it will continue. Louisville over Boston College. My God. This will be an underrated showdown in the other Death Valley. Number 3, Texas A&M taking on number 20, LSU. Now, LSU nearly got sent down to the bottom of the top 25 by Vanderbilt. Meanwhile, Texas A&M is 7-0 for the first time in an age, and they are 2 wins away from breaking their 8-4 curse. And Texas A&M certainly has the team to do it, with the 17th best offense, as well as a very decent defense. Marcel Reed throwing for 1,770 yards and 15 touchdowns and 4 picks, and Garrett Nussmeier throwing for 1,636 yards. So both of these quarterbacks are equally as good as one another. It depends on how well both defenses play in the rain over in Baton Rouge. And I'm going to say that Texas A&M does enough to go to 8-0, but that does not give you permission to lose your next 4. We got a Paul Bunyan statue on the line. Number 25, Michigan, taking on Michigan State. Now, Michigan comes in with a top 25 rushing offense, and then just a top 25 defense overall. Meanwhile, Bryce Underwood has thrown for 1,440 yards and 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. But the question is, will it continue in East Lansing? On the other side, you got Aiden Chili's. He's thrown for 1,262 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 3 picks. So almost there to Bryce Underwood. The question is, will it continue? Question is, can he continue momentum? I'm sorry if I'm talking like this, but Michigan State, I think, can pull off an upset here on NBC. I'm going to say that the Paul Bunyan statue shockingly stays in East Lansing and goes green. All right, Tennessee, you're down to your last strike, and you take on Kentucky. And this team took Texas to overtime. But Joey Aguilar, he's thrown for nearly 2,000 yards this year, but he did have a back-breaking pick 6. You're still one of the top offenses in college football, still one of the highest scoring. You're in second in that category at 44.1 points a game. The question is, can you let it continue at Kroger Field? And I think you might have a chance to do so. I'm going to say Tennessee beats Kentucky, and I don't think it's going to be in overtime. And finally, we got Houston taking on number 24, Arizona State. I'm sure Houston is wondering, what do we have to do to get us into the top 25? Because Houston is at 6-1. They have they're in the top 50 in terms of defense. And you're going against another tough defense to play at. So look for a defensive battle there. Sam Levitt is back. And this season he's thrown for nearly 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 3 picks. And he's going up against another quarterback in Connor Wigman, who's thrown for nearly 1,400 yards himself. 11 touchdowns and 2 interceptions for him this year. It's going to be difficult, but I'm going to say that Arizona State does just enough and wins over the Houston Cougars. But that is going to do it for me. Please feel free to like, comment, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the Red Rubber Duckwind All Sports Network. In the coming weekends, I might be able to stream another college football game. I know we haven't done that in a blue moon, but I just had way too much on my plate. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll let you know in the community post so you know where to find me. But until we meet again, I will see you all in the next one.